It was a crisp morning at JFK International Airport, the kind of morning where the air tasted like metal and anticipation. Crowds flowed like rivers through security gates. Luggage wheels hummed across polished floors, and the PA system echoed with departures to cities people could only dream of visiting. At Terminal 7, a tall man in his mid-40s stepped out of a black government-issued SUV. His name was Dr. Michael Harris, though the world rarely saw the doctor before his name, because the world didn't know him. Most people didn't realize that this quiet, calm, sharply dressed black man was none other than the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the youngest ever appointed in American history. Michael adjusted his suit jacket, holding his passport and carry-on. No entourage, no special treatment. Just a man traveling quietly to Washington, D.C. after a classified meeting in New York. He moved with confidence, the kind of confidence that comes from surviving too much to be shaken by anything small. His eyes, deep and thoughtful, scanned the lines ahead of him. A TSA agent nodded as he passed. "Morning, sir." "Morning," Michael replied with a faint smile. Everything felt ordinary until it didn't. Near the security checkpoint, two uniformed NYPD officers leaned against a post. Officer Rick Dalton, a broad, red-faced man with the permanent smirk of someone who'd never been told no, and his partner, Officer Tom Riley, younger, nervous, and eager to impress. Dalton's eyes narrowed as he spotted Michael. "Hey, Tom, see that guy?" Looked suspicious. Riley followed his gaze. "The guy in the suit?" "Yeah, black guy. Expensive suit. No escort. Carrying a bag like it's gold. Something's off." Tom frowned. "He just looks like a businessman." Dalton sneered. "That's what they want you to think. I've seen the type. Slick talkers. Bet he's a drug mule or something." Tom hesitated, but Dalton was already walking toward Michael. Michael reached the front of the line when Dalton's booming voice cut through the airport noise. "Hey, you! Step out of line." Heads turned. Travelers whispered. Phones tilted discreetly to record. Michael looked up, calm but alert. "Excuse me." Dalton swaggered closer, hand on his holster. "You heard me. Step out of line. Bag on the ground. Hands where I can see them." The TSA agent stammered. "Officer, this man already clear, quiet." Dalton barked. "We've got this." Michael's voice remained level. "Officer, is there a problem?" "Yeah." Dalton sneered. "You tell me. Who are you? What are you doing here? You carrying something illegal?" "I'm traveling to D.C. on government business." Dalton chuckled. "Government business, huh? You expect me to believe that?" Michael pulled out his credentials. "Here's my identification." But Dalton snatched it from his hand before he could even flip it open. He squinted at the small black wallet embossed with a golden eagle, but he didn't even look close enough to notice the seal. "Fake," Dalton declared. "Nice try. You people love pretending to be something you're not." "You people?" Michael repeated quietly, his calm tone like a storm building behind a glass wall. Tom Riley looked nervous. "Rick, maybe we should—" "Shut up," Dalton barked. "I know a fraud when I see one." He grabbed Michael's arm and yanked it behind his back. Gasps erupted. Someone shouted, "What are you doing?" He didn't do anything. Michael didn't resist. He just looked straight ahead, steady, like a man who had seen this before, too many times. Dalton's voice echoed through the terminal. "You're under arrest for suspicion of fraud and impersonating a federal officer." He slammed Michael's hands into cuffs as cameras flashed and phones filmed. Michael's bag fell open, papers and sleek, encrypted laptops spilling across the floor. A TSA supervisor ran forward. "Officer, those are classified documents." "What are you?" "Step back." Dalton shouted. "This man's a threat." Michael finally spoke, voice calm but firm. "Officer Dalton, if you touch that laptop, you will trigger a federal security alert." Dalton smirked. "Oh, yeah? Let's see what happens." He reached for the laptop, and the instant his fingers brushed it, a shrill alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the checkpoint. TSA officers scrambled. The airport's internal alert system came alive. Within seconds, 3 Homeland Security agents appeared out of nowhere. "Everyone step back," one of them ordered. "This is a restricted device." Dalton stumbled back, startled. "WH, what the hell is this?" The senior agent's eyes landed on Michael and instantly widened. "Director Harris?" "Sir, what happened?" Every sound in the airport seemed to vanish. Dalton's smirk dissolved. "The director?" Michael looked at him, still calm, still collected. "Yes, officer. I told you I was traveling on government business." Tom Riley's face turned white. "Oh my God!" Dalton took a step back. "Wait, this can't." The Homeland Security agent turned on him like a wolf. "You just arrested the director of the FBI, officer." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dalton's mouth opened, but no words came out. Sweat dripped down his temple. The airport froze in a kind of stunned silence. Travelers whispered. Phones recorded every second, and Michael stood there, still in cuffs, staring at the man who had just humiliated him in front of hundreds. "Take those off him," the Homeland agent barked. Dalton fumbled with the keys, hands trembling. "Sir, I didn't know, I swear." Michael's eyes didn't move. "You didn't ask." When the cuffs clicked open, Michael rubbed his wrists, then slowly turned toward Dalton. His voice carried the weight of someone used to commanding generals. "You profiled me," he said. "You assumed that a black man in a suit couldn't possibly be where I am. You didn't verify my ID. You didn't ask a question. You didn't even think. You acted out of bias and arrogance." Dalton tried to speak. "Sir, Save it." Michael's tone cut like glass. "You're about to learn what happens when prejudice meets power." The Homeland Security agents exchanged uneasy looks. One whispered into a radio. Within minutes, FBI vehicles screeched up outside the terminal. Agents in black suits poured in, sealing off the area. Reporters were already gathering. Cameras flashed. The story was about to go viral. Michael picked up his phone and made a single call. "Get me the mayor's office and internal affairs." Dalton's heart pounded. "Sir, please, I made a mistake. I was just doing my job." "No," Michael said. "You were doing what you've been allowed to do. Abuse power without accountability. But today, that ends." The mayor's voice came on speaker. "Director Harris, we heard what happened. My deepest apologies. We're handling it immediately." Michael glanced at Dalton, whose face had turned pale. "Make sure you do," he said. Dalton dropped to one knee without even realizing it, voice shaking. "Please, sir, don't end my career. I mean..." Michael stared down at him, not with hate, but with something heavier, disappointment. "Maybe this is what it takes for people like you to learn," he said softly. "That power doesn't make you right. Integrity does." He turned and walked toward the gate, silent, unbroken, and commanding. Dalton stayed there on one knee as the FBI agents surrounded him. Cameras flashed again, the image that would soon flood the internet. A racist cop kneeling before the very man he tried to humiliate. As Michael boarded the plane, an aide ran up behind him, whispering urgently, "Sir, there's more." Someone tipped off the press before it happened. The arrest might have been planned. Michael froze mid-step. "Planned?" The aide nodded. "Yes, sir. We think someone inside the bureau set you up." Michael's expression hardened. "Find out who. I want names." He took his seat, staring out the window as the engines roared to life. The storm had only just begun. The jet engines hummed like a low storm beneath the cabin floor. Director Michael Harris sat by the window, his reflection ghosted against the glass. Outside, the clouds were thick and heavy, a sky full of secrets. He hadn't spoken since takeoff. Not to his aide, not to the agents who had joined him in the back of the plane. His eyes were fixed somewhere far beyond the horizon, where truth and betrayal met in shadow. The humiliation at the airport wasn't what haunted him. It was the precision of it. How had the officers known where he would be? His itinerary was classified, his departure time known only to a handful of people. That arrest wasn't an accident. It was bait. Michael leaned forward, pressing his palms together. "Someone wanted that scene to happen," he murmured. His aide, Agent Lisa Monroe, looked up from her laptop. "Sir, that officer didn't just stumble across me. Someone gave him a description, maybe a photo, told him to act. He didn't question it because the instruction came from authority. Maybe even federal authority. Lisa frowned. You think this was orchestrated by someone inside the bureau? Michael's gaze hardened. I don't think. I know. Lisa's phone buzzed. A new encrypted message appeared, flashing red. Classified priority alert. Level Omega. She blinked. Sir, we're receiving a high-priority internal ping. It's from Cyber Division. Michael nodded. Open it. The message decrypted slowly, lines of code unfolding like digital smoke. Then it froze on one line of text. Internal communication breach. Director's location leaked from Washington HQ. Source unknown. Lisa's heart sank. They traced it back to our own servers. Michael exhaled through his nose. Calm, controlled, deadly serious. Someone inside my house betrayed me. He turned toward the window again, his mind racing. The timing, the setup, the public arrest, the viral humiliation. It wasn't about race alone. That was the weapon used to break him publicly. But the real motive? Power. Somewhere in Washington. Someone wanted him out. When the plane landed at Reagan National Airport, black SUVs lined the tarmac. FBI agents in suits snapped to attention as Michael stepped off the stairs. Cameras flashed again, reporters shouting questions. Director Harris, do you have a statement about the arrest? Was it racial profiling? Will the NYPD officers face charges? He didn't answer. He just adjusted his tie and kept walking. Inside the SUV, his secure phone buzzed. The screen read, Confidential call, presidential line. Lisa looked at him. Sir, he nodded and answered, Mr. President. A deep voice came through, tense and direct. Michael, I saw the footage. Half the country has by now. You handled it with more restraint than anyone else would have. Thank you, sir, Michael said evenly. But there's something else, the president continued. Homeland is saying this wasn't random. Intel suggests someone fed those officers your name, flight, and photo. I want to know who. Michael's jaw tightened. So do I? The president hesitated. Michael, I trust you, but tread carefully. Whoever's behind this might be closer than you think. The line went dead. Back at the J. Edgar Hoover Building, Washington, D.C. The hallways buzzed with quiet tension. Every agent knew something had gone wrong, but few knew how deep the rot ran. Michael entered his private office, the air cold and sterile. He sat behind his desk, the seal of the FBI shining beneath his hands. Lisa placed a folder before him. Sir, Cyber Division traced the data leak to a terminal logged in under clearance code 7A. Michael frowned. 7A? That's senior staff. Yes, sir. And it's registered to Deputy Director Robert Kane. Michael's head lifted sharply. Robert Kane, his second-in-command. A man who'd worked beside him for 5 years. Who'd shaken his hand after every crisis. Who had vouched for him in front of Congress. Lisa spoke softly. Sir, he's in his office right now. Michael stood slowly. Then let's go see him. The door to Robert Kane's office swung open. Kane, silver-haired, charming, and composed, looked up from a stack of papers. Michael, he greeted smoothly. Rough morning. Huh? The whole bureau's buzzing about the airport mess. Michael's eyes stayed locked on him. Buzzing or celebrating? Kane raised an eyebrow. What's that supposed to mean? Lisa stepped forward, sliding a photo onto his desk, a screenshot of the internal data trail. The label read, Terminal Access 7A, Data Exfiltration Log, NYPD Incident. Kane's face froze. You think I leak your travel data? Michael's voice was calm, but each word hit like a hammer. The system doesn't think. It records, and it recorded you. Kane laughed, but was forced. Michael, come on. You know me. I've served under 3 directors. I wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Michael cut in. Undermine me? Set me up? Watch as 2 racist officers drag me through an airport to destroy my credibility. Kane stood. You're being paranoid. Michael leaned closer, eyes like steel. No, Robert. I'm being cautious. Something you taught me. Now tell me why my itinerary ended up in NYPD's hands. For a moment, silence. Then a flicker, the faintest smirk in Kane's eyes. Maybe, he said slowly, it's because not everyone in this bureau thinks you belong where you are. Lisa inhaled sharply. Sir. Michael's jaw flexed. Say that again. Kane shrugged. You're a good man, Michael, but the bureau was built a certain way. Some people think the top should stay that way. You mean white? Kane didn't respond. Michael stepped back, his voice steady but vibrating with suppressed fire. Get out of my building. You're suspended effective immediately. Kane sneered. You don't have that authority. Michael pulled out his phone and tapped a single code. Within seconds, 2 internal affairs agents appeared at the door. Escort Deputy Director Kane out. Confiscate his badge and credentials. Kane's smirk vanished. Michael, don't do this. You'll regret it. Michael's tone was ice. No, Robert. You will. Hours later, Michael stood alone in his office, staring at the Washington skyline. Lisa entered quietly. Sir, Kane's been detained, but we found something else. She laid down another file, this one marked Top Secret/Operation Sable. What's this? Michael asked. It's a covert internal project, one you never authorized. It's been pulling data from classified systems for months, and all the signatures trace back to the same network that leaked your information. Michael flipped through the pages. Names, accounts, payments. At the bottom, a list of 8 high-ranking officials, people across federal agencies, all connected through shell companies. Lisa whispered, Sir, this goes beyond the bureau. Michael looked up. His reflection in the window looked tired but unbroken. Then we dig deeper. Quietly. If they want me silenced, they'll expect me to lie low. We'll use that. Lisa nodded. Where do we start? Michael turned from the window, eyes burning with resolve. With the man who signed off on Operation Sable. The signature on the last page. Lisa flipped it open and froze. The name read, Senator Charles Denton. Michael exhaled slowly. The same senator who approved my appointment. Lisa's voice trembled. Sir, that means... Yes, Michael said quietly. The same man who smiled on camera and called me a symbol of progress has been plotting to destroy me behind closed doors. The office fell silent except for the faint hum of Washington outside, a city built on secrets. Michael closed the folder and locked it in his briefcase. This isn't about me anymore, Lisa. It's about the kind of justice this country claims to stand for. He turned toward her. Get me a meeting with Denton, but not at his office. Somewhere he won't expect. Lisa frowned. Where? Michael's lips curved into a grim smile. At the airport. That night, the news channels exploded with headlines. FBI Director Harris suspends deputy director amid scandal. Anonymous sources claim FBI in internal crisis. Is America's top lawman losing control? Michael watched in silence as the TV flickered in his office. He didn't notice the small red light blinking beneath his desk, a hidden transmitter. Across town, in a dark room filled with monitors, someone watched him through a grainy camera feed. A voice on the other end of a radio said, He knows about Denton. What's the order? Another voice replied coldly, Make sure he never finds proof. The screen cut to black. It was nearly midnight in Washington. The J. Edgar Hoover building stood silent against the city lights, a steel fortress full of secrets. Inside, Director Michael Harris sat alone at his desk, surrounded by classified files, encrypted drives, and a coffee gone cold. The headlines from the airport incident still dominated every screen in America. His image, the man unjustly arrested and yet composed, had become both an inspiration and a weapon. Some hailed him as a symbol of integrity. Others whispered he was a liability. He stared at the folder labeled Operation Sable. The deeper he read, the more rotten it smelled. Money trails, political influence, surveillance orders signed without oversight. And at the heart of it, Senator Charles Denton, the same man who had stood on national television 2 years ago and said, Director Harris represents the best of what this country stands for, Justice without bias. Michael whispered to himself, justice without bias. What a joke. The door opened quietly. Agent Lisa Monroe stepped in, holding her tablet tight. Sir, we just intercepted a digital ping from an unknown transmitter inside this building. Michael looked up. How close? She swallowed. Inside your office, sir. Michael froze. Where? Lisa pointed under his desk. We found a small microtransmitter hidden near the console wiring. Whoever placed it had level 4 access. Michael's jaw clenched. That means someone in this office betrayed us. Lisa nodded, her voice low. And they're listening right now. Michael stood unhurried. He reached under the desk, tore the transmitter free, and set it on the table. He stared at it for a long moment, then crushed it under his heel. The silence afterward was heavy, like the calm before a gunshot. Later that night, his phone buzzed with private alert. Incoming visitor, level 1 clearance. Lisa checked the monitor. Sir, it's Deputy Director Kane. Michael's eyes narrowed. He's under suspension. Lisa frowned. Then how did he get past security? Before she could finish, the office doors opened and Robert Kane walked in, not handcuffed, not escorted, calm, confident. Michael rose from behind his desk. You have 5 seconds to explain how you got in here. Kane smirked. Old habits die hard. You forget, I built half the systems here before you took over. Lisa's hand moved to her firearm, but Michael gestured subtly for her to stop. Kane held up both hands mockingly. Relax. I didn't come to fight. I came to talk. Michael's voice was ice. Then start talking. Kane stepped closer. You're digging into things that go far above your clearance. Even as director, Operation Sable isn't just Denton's play. It's bigger, global. Michael's tone sharpened. I don't care how big it is. It's illegal. Kane chuckled. That's exactly why they want you out. You don't understand the game. You still think the Bureau serves the people. Michael's jaw tightened. It does. Kane leaned forward. Then you're already dead. Before Lisa could react, the office lights cut out. Total darkness. Then a flash. Muzzle flare. Gunshot. Glass shattered. Papers flew. Lisa dug behind the desk, drawing her weapon. Michael stayed still, eyes scanning, calm even in chaos. Kane, he shouted. You fire in this building, and every alarm will. Another shot. Closer. Kane's voice echoed in the dark. It's too late, Michael. You were never supposed to make it this far. Lisa returned fire. The lights flickered back on. Kane stumbled, blood on his arm, but he was smiling. You think you've won, he hissed. But Denton already has what he wants. Michael stepped forward, gun steady. And what's that? Kane grinned through the pain. Proof that the Bureau isn't clean, that you're not untouchable. They'll make you look like a criminal before the week's over. Michael fired once, not to kill, but to disable. The bullet hit Kane's leg. He fell groaning. Lisa rushed forward to cuff him. We've got him, sir. Michael shook his head. No, he's just the messenger. Within hours, chaos erupted across the Bureau. A leak hit the media, not from outside, but from inside. Breaking. FBI director under investigation for misuse of classified funds. Anonymous sources allege Harris covered up internal corruption scandal. Michael's phone lit up with alerts. Reporters calling him a fraud. Networks replaying the airport footage like it was evidence. Lisa stormed into his office. Sir, someone's framing you. They've forged documents, wire transfers, fake signatures, even altered your emails. Michael's voice stayed calm. They're building a story that fits what they want the public to see. A black director out of control, corrupt, dangerous. Lisa's eyes burned. We can fight this. We can show the truth. He shook his head. Not yet. If we go public now, we play their game. We need proof that leads straight to Denton. Later that night, a message arrived from an encrypted channel. No name, no trace. Just coordinates. And one line of text. You want proof? Come alone. Lisa frowned. Sir, this could be a trap. Michael zipped his coat. It definitely is. That's why I'm going. She grabbed his arm. Then at least take backup. He looked at her with quiet conviction. If I show up with agents, whoever sent that will vanish. Sometimes the only way to expose a snake is to walk into the nest yourself. The coordinates led to an abandoned freight warehouse near the Potomac River. Steel doors rusted, lights flickering like dying stars. Michael stepped inside, his footsteps echoing through the vast, hollow space. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, suited, familiar. Senator Charles Denton. Director Harris, he said, voice smooth as silk. I was wondering when you'd finally show up. Michael's expression didn't change. I expected you'd be less hands-on. Denton smiled. Some matters require personal attention. You've been busy digging in places you shouldn't. Michael's tone stayed even. Places where the law should shine, Senator. Denton's smile faded. You think justice is about light? No, Michael. Justice is about control. You were useful, a symbol, a headline, but you started believing your own myth. Michael took a step closer. You leaked my location to those officers. You humiliated me publicly. You tried to destroy my credibility. Denton's eyes glinted. And it worked. You'll be suspended within 48 hours. The Bureau will collapse under your name. Michael's jaw flexed. Unless I expose you first. Denton laughed softly. Expose me? I am the Senate Oversight Chair for National Security. You don't expose me, Director. I erase you. At that moment, Michael noticed a faint glint of red lights along the walls. Snipers' lasers. 5 of them. Denton whispered. Walk away, and I'll let you live long enough to watch your own resignation on TV. Michael didn't flinch. You're afraid, Charles, because you know one thing about me. Denton tilted his head. And what's that? That I don't walk away. He dropped a small metal object from his hand, a signal jammer. The red lasers flickered out instantly. Denton's calm cracked for the first time. What did you... Sirens roared outside. Black SUVs surrounded the warehouse. Lisa Monroe's voice blared from a megaphone. FBI, Senator Denton. Step away from the director. Denton's face went pale. You brought backup? Michael smirked. You told me to come alone. You didn't say she couldn't follow. But before Agent could enter, one of them, Agent Cooper, Michael's trusted security lead, suddenly turned, pulling a gun on Lisa. Drop it, he shouted. Michael's stomach dropped. Cooper, not you. Cooper's hands trembled, but his voice was steady. I'm sorry, sir. They got to my family. Denton's people. They said they'd kill them if I didn't cooperate. Lisa whispered, You don't have to do this. He looked torn, eyes wet. I have no choice. Michael took a step closer. You always have a choice. Don't let them turn you into what they are. For a moment, the air stood still. 3 lives hanging on a thread. Then, Cooper turned his gun, not on Lisa, but on one of Denton's snipers. Bang! Chaos exploded. Gunfire echoed. Agents stormed in. Denton tried to run, but Michael tackled him to the ground, pinning him with his own cuffs. You're under arrest, Michael said coldly, for treason, conspiracy, and the attempted assassination of a federal officer. As Denton was dragged away, the night filled with flashing red and blue lights. Lisa approached Michael. We got him, sir. Michael shook his head. No, Denton was the face, not the hand. Someone else is still pulling the strings. Lisa frowned. Who? Michael looked toward the horizon, where the first light of dawn was rising over the Potomac. He whispered, the man Denton answered to. Lisa looked stunned. There's someone above a senator? Michael nodded slowly. There always is. And as he spoke, in a skyscraper across D.C., a shadowed figure in a suit watched the news feed of Denton's arrest and smiled. He turned to an aide and said, Prepare Phase 2. If Harris wants war, we'll give him one. The world outside the glass walls of the FBI headquarters felt colder than ever. Rain streaked across the D.C. skyline, like tears running down steel. Inside, the air was heavy with whispers, rumors, and fear. Director Marcus Harris stood at the window, silent, watching the storm. His reflection looked older, haunted, but his eyes still burned with the same fire that had carried him through decades of injustice. The fallout from the airport arrest had shaken the entire system. The media called it the scandal that ripped America open. But Marcus knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Deputy Director Elena Ruiz rushed into his office, folder in hand, face pale. "Sir, the Senate committee has moved up your hearing. They're calling it an emergency review of your authority." Marcus didn't look up. "They want to show," he said quietly. Elena hesitated. "They also suspended your clearance." He turned now, slowly, dangerously calm. "They suspended my clearance?" The director of the FBI. "Yes, sir. Ordered directly by the Attorney General. I think Senator Denton's people are pulling strings." Marcus exhaled. "They're trying to bury me before I expose them." Later that night, Marcus sat alone in his home office. Screens glowed with files, corruption reports, evidence of cover-ups, police abuse records, all leading to one name, Senator Charles Denton. He clicked a file labeled Operation Halo. It showed confidential transfers from private prison corporations to Denton's campaign fund, blood money from human suffering. Then the screen flickered. A message appeared. "You should have stayed quiet, Marcus." He froze. Someone had breached a secure network. Seconds later, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. Director Harris. A distorted voice said, "We gave you a warning. Tomorrow morning, your career ends. Don't show up at that hearing." Then static. Morning. The Senate chamber was packed with reporters, politicians, and cameras. Flashbulbs lit the air as Marcus entered, handcuffed. The same officers who had once begged for forgiveness at the airport now escorted him like a criminal. Senator Denton smirked from his seat. "Director Harris," he began, "you stand accused of misconduct, misuse of authority, and national embarrassment. Do you have anything to say before we remove you from your position?" Marcus raised his head. His voice was steady. "I do. You can strip my title, my clearance, even my name from the records, but you can't bury the truth." The room fell silent. He placed a small flash drive on the table. "This contains every document proving your involvement in the corruption I've been investigating for months. It's already been transmitted to every major news outlet and the Department of Justice." Gasps. Cameras flashed. Denton's face turned ghost white. Marcus leaned forward. "You call me a criminal because I look like the people your system loves to silence. But I'm not afraid of you, Senator. You should be afraid of me." Chaos erupted. Reporters shouted. Denton slammed his gavel. "Guards, remove him." But the guards hesitated. One of them, a black officer named Reed, stepped forward, then turned to Denton. "Sir, maybe we should let him finish." Denton's voice trembled. "That's an order, officer." Reed's hand hovered over his holster. "With respect, Senator, I don't take orders from criminals." The room froze. In that moment, Reed's gesture became a symbol. One by one, other officers lowered their weapons. Cameras captured it live. The same police force that once arrested Harris now stood in his defense. Within hours, the footage went viral. Millions saw the hypocrisy of power crumble before truth. Investigations exploded nationwide. By midnight, the Senate Ethics Committee had announced an emergency suspension for Denton. Elena called Marcus from headquarters. "They're coming for him, sir. The DOJ is moving in." Marcus exhaled softly. Justice takes time, but always arrives. He looked at his reflection again, the same glass, the same rain. But this time his eyes were calm. Just as he began to breathe again, his phone buzzed once more. A private, encrypted message appeared. "You may have won the battle, Harris, but we own the war. Omega Division." His eyes widened. He'd heard whispers about Omega, a rogue intelligence unit operating outside government oversight. And if they were real, Denton was only the beginning. Marcus whispered, "So that's who's really pulling the strings." He turned toward the window, the storm still raging. "Let's see how far this goes." 2 weeks after the Senate hearing, Washington, D.C. looked peaceful on the surface. But peace is just the silence before an explosion. Director Marcus Harris had resigned from the FBI under pressure, though the truth was far from defeat. He had built something quietly, something powerful. A shadow task force of loyal agents who still believed in justice. At a secluded cabin outside Quantico, the rain fell hard on the roof as Marcus studied a digital map filled with red dots, locations tied to Omega Division. Deputy Director Elena Ruiz entered, soaked and pale. "They've gone dark, sir. Every trace of Omega from our internal systems, wiped clean. Even the satellite archives are empty." Marcus turned slowly, his tone cold. "That means they're inside." Someone at the very top ordered it. He tapped the screen, zooming in on one read, "A private defense contractor, Helios Dynamics. That's our next target. And we move tonight." Dark clouds hung over the Helios compound like a warning. A black SUV pulled up a mile away, headlights off. Inside sat Marcus, Elena, and Agent Reed, the same officer who had stood up for him in the Senate hearing. Reed checked his gear. "You sure about this, sir? No warrant. No backup. If this goes wrong." Marcus cut him off. "It already went wrong when they framed me. We're not waiting for permission anymore." They moved through the woods, silent as shadows. The facility loomed ahead, metallic, fenced, humming with generators. Elena hacked into the side gate system. Sparks flickered, and the lock clicked open. Inside, rows of computer servers blinked in eerie blue light. Reed whispered, "What the hell is this place?" Elena's eyes widened at the monitors. "They're tracking every federal agent in real time." Marcus approached one screen. His face appeared on it. Tag threat level critical. A chill ran through the room. "They built a system to hunt us," he muttered. Then, from the shadows, a voice. "Correct, Director Harris. And we've been expecting you." From the darkness stepped a tall man in a black tactical coat. Face half hidden, voice deep and calm. "Name's Commander Lucian Cray," he said. "Omega answers to no government, no flag. We do what your broken system can't." Marcus clenched his fists. "You're mercenaries. Assassins hiding behind patriotism." Cray smirked. "And you're a relic, a man who still believes justice can exist in a corrupt world. The difference between us? I stopped believing." Elena drew her weapon. "You should have stayed in the dark, Cray." But before she could fire, the screens around them flared with red alerts. Security forces swarmed in from every exit. Marcus shouted, "Fall back!" Gunfire erupted, echoing through the metal halls. Sparks flew. Alarms screamed. Reed kicked down a side door. "This way!" They sprinted through the corridor, bullets tearing through glass and steel. Marcus grabbed a data drive from one of the servers, glowing red with encrypted intel. Outside, the compound exploded behind them, a wall of fire lighting up the night. They dove behind the SUV as debris rained down. Elena coughed, gasping. "Did we get it?" Marcus held up the drive, his face lit by the flames. "We got enough to burn them down." But then his phone buzzed. A video feed appeared. His home. His sister, Angela, bound to a chair. Cray's voice echoed through the speakers. "You took something from me, Harris. Now I'm taking something from you." Marcus's eyes went cold. "You cross a line you can't come back from." Days later, Marcus sat in a safe house, surrounded by his loyal agents. He looked exhausted, broken, but his voice carried fire. "They want a war? Then we'll give them one. But this time we fight on our terms." Elena nodded. "We decrypt the drive, expose their funding, and hit every one of their operations in one sweep." Reed slammed his fist on the table. "And we get your sister back." Marcus looked at both of them, his family now, and said quietly, "No matter what happens, we end this. No running, no hiding. We finish it in the light." That night, while everyone slept, Elena stayed up decrypting the Omega drive. The code was almost cracked. Then a quiet knock. She turned confused. "Reed!" The door creaked open. A silenced gun gleamed in the moonlight. Reed stepped in, face unreadable. "Elena!" he whispered. "I'm sorry." Her eyes widened. "You're one of them?" A single tear fell from his eye. "They have my family, too." A shot rang out. Marcus jolted awake in the next room as the sound echoed through the safe house. He rushed in and saw Elena on the ground, the laptop still glowing with the decrypted files. The screen read, Omega, Project Legacy, Target, Marcus Harris. Marcus's voice broke into a whisper. They planned this from the start. He looked up. The door was open, re-gone, and the war had just turned personal. The sun rose over Washington, painting the skyline in gold and fire. Director Marcus Harris stood on the rooftop of a high-rise, the decrypted Omega drive clutched tightly in his hand. Every betrayal, every attempt to ruin him, every setup that had nearly destroyed him, it all led here. Beside him, Elena stirred, bandaged but alive, her eyes burning with determination. Marcus turned to her. Today we end this. No hesitation. No mercy. Elena nodded. For the truth, and for everyone they tried to destroy. He looked out at the city, alive with the hustle of the morning. Somewhere in those streets, Omega Division operatives were preparing their next strike, believing they still controlled the game. They didn't. Inside the Omega Operations Center, rows of monitors flickered. Commander Lucian Cray and his operatives were confident. Harris won't find us here. We control everything, Cray said. Just then, the doors crashed open. Marcus, Elena, and a team of loyal agents stormed in. Gunfire echoed to concrete halls. Alarms blared and monitors flashed red. Marcus moved like a storm, every step precise, every order calculated. Cray appeared at the top of a stairwell, weapon drawn. Director Harris, he sneered. I told you, the war was mine to win. Marcus leveled his gun. You lost at the moment you underestimated what integrity can do. They fought through the compound, room by room, each hallway echoing with shouts and gunfire. Elena hacked into the mainframe, releasing encrypted data live to every media network, every government agency, and every citizen online. The walls of Omega's empire began to crumble in real time. Millions of documents, videos, and financial records flooded the public domain. Proof of corruption, assassinations, and illegal surveillance. Cray raised his gun, aiming at Marcus. You think this changes anything? I am untouchable. Marcus advanced, eyes cold steel. Not untouchable, just unafraid. A single shot rang out. Cray dropped his weapon. Agents cuffed him immediately as cameras captured every moment. Hours later, outside the compound, Marcus held the Omega drive in his hand. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over cities slowly waking to truth. Elena approached. It's done. They can't hurt anyone else. Marcus smiled faintly. No. And now the Bureau can rebuild. Clean. Honest. Accountable. The media descended, but Marcus didn't flinch. He spoke to the world not with anger, but with conviction. Justice is not a title, a badge, or power. Justice is truth. And today, truth wins. The public erupted in applause and admiration. The very system that once sought to destroy him now celebrated him. Senator Denton was arrested. Omega Division dismantled. Corrupt officials exposed. Families returned safely. And though the fight had been personal, Marcus had transformed it into a lesson for the nation. Elena placed a hand on his shoulder. You did it, Marcus. You survived them all. He looked out at the city, breathing in the cold evening air. We did it, Elena. And anyone who thinks they can hide behind corruption, they'll see that the light always finds them. Months later, Marcus sat in his new office. Quiet, safe, yet ready. The headlines praised his heroism, but he knew the fight for justice never truly ends. His phone buzzed with a new alert. Encrypted message. Harris, congratulations. You won the first battle. But the war for the truth is eternal. Unknown. Marcus smiled faintly, eyes narrowing. Good. Let them come. I'll be ready. He looked out over Washington, a city now aware of the power of truth, resilience, and courage. And somewhere in the shadows, a new threat stirred. But Marcus Harris was ready. The war for justice would never end, but neither would he.